Welcome back to Coaches Exploring the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People from a Principles Behind Clarity perspective. And it's a little bittersweet today, as this will be our last episode in the 7 Habits series. And we're going to cover the end of the book. I guess it's page 367, Inside Out Again, which is a little bit of a recap. And then we'll just talk a little bit about our impressions of the book and the series, and wrap the whole thing up. So thank you for being here once again. And I don't know, it's like I said, for me anyway, bittersweet that it's kind of 7 Habits is coming to an end. At least the deep dive exploration of it.
Yeah.
Will I kick off?
Sure, go for it.
Go.
I'm actually going to fast forward a little bit from whatever page we started on there, 367 to 375. And the second paragraph in 375 begins, real change comes from the inside out. It doesn't come from hacking at the leaves of attitude and behavior with quick fix personality ethics. It comes from striking at the root, the fabric of our thought, the fundamental essential paradigms which give definition to our character and create the lens through which we see the world. And for me, if we're talking about the connection to the work we've been doing around the principles behind clarity, that has quite a nice sum up that, you know, if anything that we want to change, we have to see for ourselves. It has to make sense to us. So all the tinkering around the edges or trying to fix the circumstances or outside stuff, it's not, it may put a chink in it, but it's not going to be long lasting. So for me, that was kind of a nice summary and a nice connection to the work that we've been doing and the direction we've been looking in.
Yeah, I love that you've highlighted that. It's one of those passages in this book that could, if you copy and pasted that into a Sid Banks book or into a Jamie Smart book, it would belong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It fits.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And also I love the words of the philosopher Amiel. Even the first sentence, moral truth can be conceived in thought. That just for me says it all, because that kind of points to to the difference between, like, say, you know, attitude and behavior with a quick fix personality ethic. What it's pointing to is the striking at the fabric part of it. It's talking to the real you, the spirit, the divine, your God, as you wish, you know, that transformational energy that is at the heart of our being.
I'm glad you said that, because I mean, when I've been thinking about this book and this time through it, what's been different about it for me? And I mean, there's a lot that has been different, seeing things differently, but in the very beginning, habit 1, be proactive. You are the creator. That is really, I don't know, stuck on me like glue. Like it's really stuck with me. Even you know, before this call, I was sharing with Lynn and Elaine how I've been outside in for the last couple of days on different things in my personal life, and the whole time that you are the creator has been in the back of my mind, like, you know, I'm creating this experience. And it's just much more powerful than I ever understood it to be 20 years ago.
Yeah. And that kind of, again, I like this, Lynn, because what we've done is we've begun with the end in mind. So I'm going to work a little bit backwards and just say, you know, how that's what you're saying, and sort of how, you know, Lynn, you've come to sort of starting with that bit, which to me indeed is it's the beginning and the end. if you like, for me, making a comparison with Covey's work and Jamie Smart's work and Sid Banks' work, of course. So I can kind of see how the spiral is developing, but it always starts at the same place, which is inside. It can't start anywhere else, really. And then to what Greg was saying, as we work backwards, so from page 374, becoming a transition person, all the first two and even first three paragraphs, spoke to me exactly of again, Jamie Smart's implications of the inside out understanding of the 3 Ps, if you like. And it spoke to me exactly, the implication number 1, you're not a victim of circumstance. And I would go as far as to say is that you are not and never are, you are not your circumstance. So not even a victim, you are just not your circumstance. And actually, just as I was about to say all of this, my eye just dropped on the first sentence, which is part of the page before, the highest and most powerful motivation in doing that, which is the gift that you can give your children, the idea of the roots. One is the root and the other is wings. So there you go, like the grounding and the freedom that comes from it.
Yeah. So it's right, when I was reading through this, the idea of raising your children and not, I don't know, carrying on your scripts and all this kind of stuff. It reminded me of when my wife and I took our marriage course before we got married. We had to go do a course at the church. And one of the things you talk about is, do you want to have kids? Because it was actually surprising to me how many couples that were there that had never had that conversation. And that's it. Yeah. And it made me realize that's why they do that course, is because, if you have one spouse or the other who wants kids and the other one doesn't want kids, it's better to find that out before you get married than years into it. But one of the ladies at our table was adamantly against having kids and all this stuff about bringing a kid into the world and her own childhood and all the horrors she'd been through and stuff, and not wanting that for somebody else. And it's funny because my paradigm, I always thought of it as like, yeah, but what if my kid is the one who changes the world, who finds world peace, or I don't know, invents a cure for cancer, or I don't know, all these things. Like anyway, it just reminded me of how I felt. And
and
not that I put that kind of pressure on my kids.
No, not me.
Yeah, hope they're not watching.
Yeah, come on, world peace already, please. Come on.
And the idea also, still working back, so back on page 372 and 373, the title of intergenerational living, to me, just again spoke of connection in general. And the sense of how, Covey just writes it sort of quite simple, like it's kind of a useful thing for kids to have, kind of thing. And he says halfway through, more or less, page 373, it's great for children to be able to identify themselves with the tribe. So that sounds to me, with a sense of belonging, with a sense of protection, with a sense of, sort of we're all in this together kind of thing. But I'm kind of thinking, I wonder if Covey, if it had crossed his mind, the idea that indeed we're already connected, that tribe in truth is already there. That and interestingly, if it seems to me, if somebody would like to write that very sentence, it's great for children to be able to identify themselves with the tribe, to feel that many people know them and care about them. It implies the notion that in a general in this case, perhaps American culture, I'm imagining, because Toby's an American, so he'll have got a lot of info from the American people. It gives you the notion that actually that just doesn't happen, generally speaking, in life. It makes me kind of wonder, well, why do we need to be taught this? Why do we even need this to be brought to our thinking, let's say? That's kind of doubly interesting. But indeed, if in this part, if Kobe did have a notion that the connection, true connection is there, it's a fact, then there would be no need to take action upon it, because the tribe would be created, the sense of belonging, the sense that other people care about you would never, it would be there already. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at it that way. I was that's interesting, Lynn. I hadn't seen that or thought of it that way. When he's talking about the intergenerational importance, I suppose, and refers back to roots and how important I guess it is for us to even be able to identify with the roots. And he goes on to say, what page are we on here? 373. I think when I read this, I kind of thought maybe here he's pointing to the bigger picture at the bottom of page 373 when he says the highest and most powerful motivation is not for ourselves only, but for our posterity and the posterity of all mankind. It's that kind of there spoke to me of, there's a bigger meaning here. There's something bigger going on. Whether he intended that or not, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I loved that this whole notion of being the transition person. That really spoke to me. That made me think about whether we're benefiting from being in some of our group work, or when we're working with clients, just even being with people when they may not, because transition can look like a lot of things, right? We're in transition in many ways, a lot of the time, or all of the time, I guess. So when people are in a period of change, or are considering a period of change, to be that transition person, and talking about the empowerment there, I love the reference to that. That seemed really powerful.
Yeah, it seems to me very aligned with being a coach. In general, like being a catalyst or an agent of change to guide people through their scripts into what's possible for them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys read past this part. The Sean Covey had some new insights on the Inside Out Again part, and he used a metaphor at the beginning of that of a plane. He said the key is that pilots keep making small course corrections by reading their instruments. As a result, the plane ultimately reaches its destination. Like basically, a plane has a flight plan, but 99.9% of the flight, they're not on the path. They're all over the place. And it really struck me that, that's most days, that's how my life feels. It's a one course correction after another. And it's kind of like that, that loop of like, okay, what's next? Do it. Check your instruments, course correct. Okay, do that. Check your instruments, course correct. Now do that. And anyway, I just really resonated with that.
I did read that bit, and I didn't read much more after that. But I just blocked off the whole paragraph and just wrote in the side, rumble strips, ?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that,
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that sense, you know, that's, and again, the sense that really you don't have to do anything. You just kind of do it. It's almost like it's unconscious.
Mm.
You know, the awareness will tell you, well, you're off track.
Yeah.
Just need to listen to it and get back on track. And that's kind of, and I kind of feel that even in a day-to-day ordinary life, you're doing it all the time naturally anyway.
Yeah. Except when you're not.
Except when you're not. Except when you're not. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that, what you just said. It's kind of an expansion on, you know, check your instruments. What are your instruments? Your instruments is wisdom. You know, you will be guided. If you slow down and listen, your inner guidance will get you where you're going.
Yeah.
The other one I highlighted, which was one of my favorite ideas from Covey before, which I truthfully didn't really understand until picking up clarity and the missing link. But anytime you start thinking the problem is out there, that very thought is the problem.
Yeah.
Again, pointing to the inside out nature of life.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have picked up on it or not from a lot of my posts and things recently, but like this whole exploring the 7 habits is kind of reverberated through and kind of reignited a lot of it's just amplified the value of these habits. So whether it's, you know, I did a video the other day about my day planner, which is like a habit 3 thing. I talked about realizing I need to rework my personal mission statement for the business part of my life, which I'm going to do another video about. You know, I am the creator, be proactive, just constantly reminding myself of that. And particularly as we head into 2024, you know, what is it that I want to create for myself in 2024? And of course, all those 3 things I just described are all the habits 1, 2, and 3, the personal victory.
The personal victory,
yeah.
And then working with others on their plans for 2024 and doing programs like this with you guys, and the synergy and the win-win. I did a post about this, you know, because there's 3 of us, it's like a win-win-win. And the synergy, 1 + 1 + 1 is greater than 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, interestingly, I won't go into the detail, but I shared with Elaine, I had when did we have our clarity weekend? Last week?
The weekend before last, yeah.
The weekend before. Okay, so I had to go and do a little bit of negotiating, shall we say. And before I went, I was like, okay, what do we want? What do they want? Do I know what they want? No. So seek first to understand. Let's ask the questions. Be clear about our side and how do we get to win-win. And I didn't use that language, but what I used was, you know, what outcome would be optimal for all of us? And they were like, oh, and we got there. It was easy, but by not presuming anything, like, okay, I don't know, so I'm going to go find out.
Yeah.
It was like, ooh, that was cool. It works. Yay. We got to win-win pretty simply. So yeah.
That's great.
Apply it in life.
Yeah.
What strikes me that notion too, it's like going into that situation in a state of curiosity, realizing you don't know what they want, and just how much of a different vibe that is for the whole discussion versus going in there with I need this, and if I don't get this, it's not going to be good.
Yeah. And well, I actually did, and I went in with, you know, I am curious because I don't know, you know, I don't know. But I actually said that I'm curious because I don't know I don't know where you're coming from or what that means or whatever. So just to open up a dialogue like that, like, oh, no presumption here.
Yeah. It knocks presumption on the head, doesn't it? Both the idea of win-win and the idea of synergy. Like it automatically it sort of excludes the ego of the person. Like in the moment that somebody else's energy steps into the picture and you need to accommodate it in your mind, obviously, then that the idea of the ego mind, like I, the me, is it just drops, instantly. And the other thing that I find so wonderful about that one is the sense that it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have to prove myself. I just have to state my case. That's all. And when, for I'm imagining there are many people who feel less confident in a conversation, or less, or believe that they don't have enough information, or believe that there's a bit about something about them that's lacking or less. It also helps those kind of people to, come out of your shell. Because when we get confused with the idea of wanting an outcome, which is not a win-win situation, all you have to do is agree upon something, but nobody has to win anything. So there is no outcome, really. There's just a further process of moving forward. So again, the idea of the synergy that comes into that is that just triplicates everything, and it goes up to the nth power. The whole thing just goes into expansion for me. And a win-win and synergy, just put it in together, and it's, exponentially grows. And I imagine that as well in, again, I don't know anything about corporate, but I'm imagining from what people tell me, and those of you who have, that the idea of the nth meeting, when people go in and basically they've got to say something, and like they've got to produce the results right now. But just this idea of going in, well, I kind of just have to make a situation that is suitable for all of us. The very approach, it just changes and amplifies the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic for sure.
Yeah, the dynamic is.
Yeah.
The habit 7, sharpen the saw, is probably the most top of mind for me lately, just because of what I've been doing the last few months in terms of health and fitness and diet. And I don't know, I'm kind of thinking, like, why the hell did it take 51 years to figure this one out? But I feel like going forward, my saw is going to be sharper than it's ever been. Which I can't wait to see what happens when I'm going through life with a sharp saw.
Yeah.
And the why the hell, right back to the paragraph that I started with. That's it, right? I mean, that's exactly how you got there. It made sense.
And I think, Greg, I think you said at the beginning as well, this book 12 years ago when I first read it, 10 or 12 years ago, I can't remember now, it became my Bible, and then I kind of let it go. But I've definitely decided to put the whole thing back on the shelf again as my Bible. And how wonderful it is, having gone through it again and sort of revisiting this, let's say, the same concept, but from a different me, because sure as eggs are eggs, I was a different person 12 years ago. And it's so nice to see how this thing effectively has no age. It's endless. And now, I don't need to read the book time and time again. I just need to remember the 7 habits, a bit like the 10 Commandments, same thing. What they, and they work, so that's fine, and that's enough.
I think I only remember like 3 or 4 of the commandments, but they're the most important ones.
we won't test you on that today.
Yeah. But
Yeah, you just got me thinking there. If this was a blueprint for, this doesn't have to be in a recording, Greg, but oh, my mind just went somewhere else entirely there. So if we were to take these principles, these 7 habits, and really meld them together with the core of what we've been doing, just latch them on, you don't really have to do very much else with people.
No.
I mean, that's it. It's
Yeah.
in a nutshell. We'd be good.
Yeah. And I must say, Lindy, I think that's a pretty neat point you made. I think that without realizing it at the time, but unconsciously, I perhaps found it easier to approach three principles, let's say concept, way of living, way of being, because of the 7 habits. I don't know why or what has induced me to say that, but I've realized that is true for me. That for some, in some way, I have understood or been, I don't know, seeing through the 3 principles has been easier for me because of this.
So almost like you had this as the grounding.
Yeah. You could say that, yes. Oh, yes.
I know when I first came into the 3 principles, I guess it was early 2021. My first thought is like, this is going to replace the 7 habits, which kind of like you had said, Land had been my Bible for like a long time. And it really kind of made me sad almost. It was like, oh, I got to let that go. And so this process of going through and just seeing how aligned and how similar, and even though the language is different and maybe the perspective of things or the way it's worded is a little different, like there's so much alignment and similarity that it's just like, no, it's the same thing. They're, Covey's pointing to the same thing as Jamie, as Sid, as all the 3 principal teachers out there. It's because it's just how life works.
Yeah. And actually, just, I don't know if anybody looked at the back cover. Considered one of the most inspiring books ever written. I'd go with that. One of the. And as we were saying, the standing out, it stands the test of time as one of the most important books of our time. Yeah.
Well, on the front cover, on my copy, over 40 million copies sold. So
yeah,
it's resonating with people for some reason.
yeah. And I believe, you guys know I'm looking into Kindle and Amazon and publishing books on Amazon. This one's still high up in the ranking when you go into the non-fiction. It's still, it changes from week to week, but it's always in the first page and the first 10 or 20 books. It's always there. In the the non-fiction category, of course. Yeah. So
I was working on some, I don't know, models and things, like just trying to get words put down to describe some things. And from what we were just talking about with this book, it reminded me of it. So it's kind of like a process: healing, transformation, thriving, legacy. It was kind of like this process of that I see myself going through. And I think about, how many people have read this book, how many languages it's been translated to. And I think of the legacy that Covey has left behind. It was quite remarkable.
Yeah. I love the just also the whole style. I mean, I don't know if he wrote it on his own or he got someone to help him with the editing and the public. No, I presume he did. But just the you know, his style. It's sort of like, I'm not going to tell you to do anything, but this is just like so obvious that you're just going to have to do it, kind of thing. So I was just opened the book. It opened at habit number 1: be proactive. Like, you know, that's kind of a command, you know, it's an imperative, be proactive. Just I'll get on and do it. But it's not. It's just nice common sense, and, you know, leaves space perhaps for the reader to sort of go, oh, I think I might have to do something now, you know. So even that, it's easy to read, and I love the way it's interspersed with his own little stories of him and his family and his boys, Sean.
I was just going to say the thing that really struck me this time through too is the amount of stories and the personal nature of the stories, and you know, obviously in the way we're being trained with Jamie storytelling, and in the way Jamie trains into this, the same thing. It's all through metaphors and stories. And even when you read Sid's books, like you know, The Missing Link's a bit of a standalone, but if you read Quest for the Pearl or Second Chances, it's or Dear Liza, it's just story, right? And just the power of telling stories to people, like you said, Elaine, like you don't have to tell people to do anything. You just kind of tell a story about something, and
just
people will see what they see, and
they'll see what they see,
and off they go. Well, it's been a great pleasure for me to go through this book with you guys. I'm glad when Lynn suggested it, I almost fell off my chair.
Yay! You were very excited, Craig. You were.
So, thank you guys, and I hope our
you.
audience appreciates it, and they pick up the book and get as much out of it as we have. So
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Lynn.
We'll figure out what we're doing next and let everyone know.
We will.
All right. Bye-bye.